During Donald Trump's meeting with evangelical leaders, he talked about how Democrats would create a violent situation in America should they take hold or control of Congress after the midterm elections. Now, that was a fascinating thing to say, considering the fact that Donald Trump himself has advocated for violence on multiple occasions. And we have evidence of that, which we'll show you in just a minute. But Tony Perkins, who is one of Trump's religious followers and supporters, went on CNN to further buttress Trump's ridiculous point. Take a look.
How did you take the president's comments about warning that things would turn violent if Republicans were not successful?
This is not a time to be complacent. I think that was the message that was received by those in the room that, look, don't think that this is just going to continue. If there is a turnover in the House or the elections, which they all have consequences, we know that, this stuff could end. And it could be overturned very quickly. Don't think it's just going to trickle out, because we see the energy on the other side. And he did make reference to Antifa, which has in many ways become the face of the left. Now, I don't think anybody in the room suggested that there was going to be violence across the nation.
Right, but I'm going to stop you for a second there. It's a reach to say that Antifa is now the face of the left. I think that would be a bit of a stretch.
Well, I don't know. When you talk about violence, the violence is on the left. You see Antifa that are rioting. You don't see evangelicals out there rioting, burning cars, as we saw.
Let's talk about the far right. The far right and what we have seen in Charlottesville and other places, there is a lot of violence there.
I can tell you this, the evangelicals do not embrace them or want anything to do with them. And that is the base of the president. In terms of violence, in terms of silencing those who want to engage in the political process, we denounce that. We believe everybody in America should have a right to participate in our process. And when you begin to suppress people and their views, that's when you have violence. And I think you see that more on the left. You see the violence coming forth on the left. Let me be very clear. We don't believe that there is any room for violence in our republic when it comes to shaping the future of our country.
Okay, so he says that the violence is mostly coming from the left, even though that hateful white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia led to the death of a counter-protester, okay? So it was the racists who decided, one of the racists at least, who decided it would be a good idea to run people over, killing Heather Heyer. But okay, so the left is the violent one, or the violent ones. And let's not forget, look, Antifa, I haven't seen a political leader on the left embrace Antifa and say this is the face of the left. In fact, if anything, I've seen progressive politicians come out and say over and over again, including Bernie Sanders, that they condemn violence of any type. Now, on the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has a pretty bad record when it comes to advocating for violence. Don't believe me? Take a look.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees, I promise.
The guards are very gentle with him. He's walking out like big high fives, smiling, laughing. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
All right, yeah, get him out. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. Hillary wants to essentially abolish the Second Amendment. By the way, and if she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know.
Wow. So, Tony Perkins said, when you talk about violence, the violence is on the left. I wonder where the violence is actually. By the way, so you got the far left and the far right. I think it's fair to call Antifa far left, and whether you are in favor of that or not is a different question. And being in favor of them does not mean that you're in favor of the one or two people who might have committed a violent act throughout the country. You could be in favor of their policies and their positions, et cetera, and not have just one or two people represent the whole group. Okay. So by the way, do you know what Antifa stands for? Anti-fascist. That's the far left. The far right are the fascists. And they were in Charlottesville and they chanted, "The Jews will not replace us," literal fascists. That is why Antifa is called anti-fascist. But we are told that the violence is on the left. Not from the fascists, but from the anti-fascists. And finally, They just don't care about logic, let alone facts. So Tony Perkins said in that clip we showed you, when you begin to suppress people and their views, that's when you have violence. But you told me that the left was violent. So are you now admitting that you were suppressing the views of the left? Or are you just throwing out talking points and it doesn't matter and they don't have to be logically connected because then you know that your audience is a bunch of idiots. Okay, evangelicals, yeah, the violence is on the left. And if you suppress people, there'll be violence. So wait, who was the violent ones? In other words, he's justifying the violence on the right by saying, hey, you're suppressing our views, you're suppressing our views.
Yeah.
So in other words, yes, you know that the violence is on the right, of course you know that. And finally, one thing that was not in that Trump clip was he said in 2016 that if he loses, that there might be riots in the streets, encouraging people to commit violence if he loses.
Exactly.
Then he turns around and says, now, hey, if the Democrats win, they might do violence. Why would they do violence if they win? Again, logic is irrelevant, facts are irrelevant. The only thing they got is fear and hatred. And then they ironically turn around and blame the left for violence. Hilarious. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.